Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This next story you're about to hear is a doozy. It's a crazy story. And biological men, ladies and gentlemen, if they have committed a crime and they're going to go to prison, this is over in the US, right? And I think it's happened all across the world in a lot of Western countries, right? If a man that has committed a crime wants to be housed in a female prison, all he's got to do is say that he's a woman and tell the court that he's a woman, and the court will then decide whether or not to house that man in a female prison. Now, some of you may be going, well, what's the problem with the man being in a female prison if the female prisoners just, abuse themselves and things like that? Well, the thing is, even if you are a female prisoner, whatever you've done, you still deserve privacy and safety because, as we know, men are more likely to abuse women in prison. That's just the way it goes, right? But hey, man, like in today's day and age, they've flipped the script. If a biological dude wants to be in a woman's prison, all he's got to do is say that he's a woman, and the court and everything else just falls in line, gives him exactly what he wants. And that's what happened in this case, except that the woman decided to sue the man after being abused and R-worded. And I guess it doesn't really look too good for the transgender individual. We'll find out, right? I don't want to spoil it too much for you right now, but I still believe that women deserve to have safety and privacy in female-only prisons, no matter what they've done, right? Maybe you guys don't care. Maybe you have a different opinion. And I do know that female inmates abuse each other. That is completely different to a man doing it, right? Just saying. Very different completely. So anyway, here's a story. Hulking trans child abuser repeatedly assaulted female inmate after being transferred to women's prison. Now, you may not have other women that abuse or do any of this other stuff to them, depending on like the circumstances, right? I don't know personally, but if a man is being housed in a female prison, what do you think he's going to do? Seth Dillon goes, when do the people who put him in a cell with a woman go to prison? Exactly. Because this man decided to do another crazy thing, and the ones that actually put him there should be in prison themselves as well. So hulking trans child abuser that kept abusing his female cellmate after being transferred to women's prison is being sued. A former inmate at a Washington state women's prison was repeatedly assaulted by her hulking transgender cellmate. I love how they put the word hulking there. It was transferred to the prison after changing. Oh, come on, New York Post. Really? Why are you changing the pronouns? Goodness me, this person does not deserve respect, especially for what he's done. After changing gender identity, according to a shocking new lawsuit, Mozzie Clark sued the State Department of Corrections in federal court last week for locking her in a cell with a 6'4" convicted child, who allegedly subjected her to months of stalking, threats of violence, and S-word harassment and assault, according to the lawsuit. Cellmate Christopher Scott Williams was convicted of S-word assaulting a young girl as a male and was serving a separate sentence for domestic abuse. Here he is. Williams then petitioned to be recognized as female and be transferred to a women's prison, according to the lawsuit. When the state granted the request and placed Williams in a cell with Clark, her life became a living nightmare, she alleged. State DOC records show Williams is listed as female at the Washington Correction Center for Women. Unflippin' believable. Clark claimed Williams, who slept over her in the top bunk, who threatened to R-word her, leer at her in the shower, and constantly asked for you-know-what, once with a homemade you-know-what, he had brought into the cell, according to the lawsuit. In their cell, Miss Clark was on the bottom bunk. Mr. Williams, who would hover menacingly over Miss Clark's bunk with an erection while touching himself. He would also display his erection to Miss Clark against her will and gesture towards it, saying how much he wanted her, the lawsuit alleged. One night, Miss Clark woke up and saw inmate Williams sitting on the floor next to her bed with his arm under her blanket, rubbing her genitals, the lawsuit added. Jeez. Clark said the guards did little to protect her when she complained. Yeah, what are they going to do? Eventually, Williams was moved to a separate cell, but the inmate would seek her out, stare at her in the showers, and follow her into the bathroom, making perverted comments from the next stall, the documents alleged. He also started threatening her with violence if she complained about him again. According to the suit, which is asking for restitution from the state for extreme emotional distress, shame, intimidation, humiliation, indignation, embarrassment, and fear. Jesus, that's a handful. Clark isn't the only woman who claims to have suffered abuse at the hands of Williams. In August, another inmate alleged lewd, intimidated behavior by Williams and other transgender inmates held in the Washington Correction Center for Women in an interview with the National Review. Well, if it's really a female-only prison, why have you got transgender? A bunch of women, when they're in the showers, these people are just standing there. They don't have to stand on their tippy toes, and they look over and see everything. People were so uncomfortable. You feel kind of like you've been violated, the unarmed prisoner said. At the time, the prison housed at least 11 transgender inmates, according to the Daily Wire. Goodness me. Like, when are they going to learn? When are they going to learn? When is enough, right? You hear stories like this all the time. Why are the judges and the people that put this dude in a female prison for this to happen? Just because a woman is in prison because she's done the wrong thing doesn't mean that she deserves to be assaulted or abused by a biological dude. Like, that's absurd. It's like you're serving out your sentence, and even women that abuse other women in prison, they don't deserve that either. Like, if you've done the crime, do the time, right? And you still deserve some safety and I guess a little bit of respect. I don't know, right? Depends on what crime you've committed, I guess. If you've committed murder or if you've abused children or whatever else, to me, I don't care what happens to you. But if you've done just like you've stolen something, yeah, it's a different story altogether. But I'm still against men being in female prisons. I think that is just totally absurd and outrageous. Like, good grief, man. You don't see women going into men's prisons, identifying as being men, and then going into men's prisons. Geez, I wonder why that is. Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care. You be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.